Ava Donovan had always believed in the fairy tale of love. She was the kind of woman who gave her all in relationships, trust, devotion, and her entire heart. But life had other plans. Her trust was shattered when she found out that the man she had loved for years had been betraying her with her best friend. The revelation came like a bolt of lightning, leaving her devastated and broken. Every promise, every sweet word, and every plan they had made together disintegrated before her eyes. The betrayal was so deep that it scarred her soul, making it impossible for her to trust again. Ava, once a bright and hopeful woman, became guarded and wary. Each subsequent relationship only seemed to reinforce her belief that love was nothing but an illusion, a cruel joke played by fate. The repeated lies and deceit she encountered pushed her further into a corner, where the idea of opening her heart to another person became unthinkable. Yet amid all the pain, one dream remained intact: the desire to be a mother. Ava longed for a child to love, someone who would never betray her, someone who would be hers forever. But the traditional route to motherhood was out of the question. She couldn't bear the thought of relying on a man again, of putting her heart on the line only to have it shattered once more. And so, Ava made a life-changing decision. She would have a child on her terms, through a sperm donor. Miles Kensington was a man who appeared to have it all. He was one of the world's wealthiest and most influential bachelors, known for his business acumen, his charm, and his enviable lifestyle. Yet beneath the surface, Miles was a man trapped by his obligations. His beloved grandmother, Eleanor Kensington, the matriarch of the family, had one final wish before she passed on the family fortune. She wanted to see her grandson settle down and produce an heir to carry on the Kensington legacy. Miles had never been one for relationships. He had seen too many of his friends and acquaintances fall prey to the pitfalls of love, marriages of convenience, divorces, and custody battles that tore families apart. He had built his life around his work, keeping his heart well guarded. But with his grandmother's health deteriorating, the pressure to fulfill her wish grew more intense. The idea of marriage for the sake of an heir was repugnant to him. He wanted no part in a relationship built on superficial grounds, nor did he want to bring a child into the world under such circumstances. But he knew he had to find a solution, and fast. After much deliberation, Miles landed on the idea of surrogacy, a way to have a child without the complications of a romantic relationship. It was the perfect solution. He could give his grandmother the heir she desired without entangling himself in an unwanted marriage. Ava's search for a sperm donor led her to an exclusive agency known for its discretion and its ability to match prospective parents with the perfect surrogate. The agency catered to a clientele that valued privacy above all else. And after reviewing Ava's profile, they deemed her a perfect candidate for a special arrangement that had just come through their doors. Miles had discreetly contacted the same agency, outlining his requirements for a surrogate: someone independent, strong-willed, and uninterested in a traditional relationship. When the agency presented Ava's profile to Miles, he was immediately intrigued. She was exactly the type of woman he was looking for: self-reliant, intelligent, and with no interest in complicating their arrangement with emotions. The agency arranged a series of meetings between Ava and Miles. From the start, their interactions were businesslike, with both of them clearly stating their expectations. Miles was impressed by Ava's straightforwardness, while Ava appreciated that Miles didn't try to win her over with charm or false promises. The arrangement seemed perfect for both of them. Ava would get the child she longed for, and Miles would fulfill his grandmother's wish without having to enter a marriage of convenience. The contract was drawn up, outlining every detail of their agreement. Ava would carry Miles's child, and in return, she would be well compensated and provided for throughout the pregnancy. It was a transaction, plain and simple, with no room for emotional entanglements. Both parties agreed, and the process began. As the pregnancy progressed, Miles ensured that Ava was provided with the best care possible. He arranged for her to live in a luxurious apartment, fully equipped with everything she might need. A dedicated team of doctors, nutritionists, and caretakers was at her disposal, ensuring that both she and the baby were in perfect health. Ava, though grateful for the care, kept herself emotionally distant. She reminded herself constantly that this was a business arrangement, Nothing more. Ava's life became a series of routine checkups and meetings with Miles. Initially, their interactions were limited to discussions about the pregnancy and the well-being of the baby. Miles, too, kept a professional distance, but he couldn't help but notice Ava's resilience and strength. She handled everything with a calm determination that impressed him. Unlike the women he was used to, who were drawn to his wealth and status, Ava seemed entirely unaffected by his power and influence. As the months passed, however, Miles found himself drawn to Ava in unexpected ways. He began to look forward to their meetings, not just to check on the pregnancy, but to talk to her, to share a moment of normalcy in his otherwise hectic life. He admired her independence and the way she carried herself with grace, despite the challenges she had faced in her past. But he was careful to keep his growing feelings in check. After all, this was supposed to be a simple business arrangement. The more time Ava and Miles spent together, the more their bond deepened. What started as a purely transactional relationship began to shift into something more. They found themselves sharing stories from their pasts, laughing over shared experiences, and confiding in each other in ways they hadn't anticipated. Miles began to visit more frequently, often bringing Ava small gifts, a book he thought she might like, her favorite flowers, or a special treat. Despite her initial reservations, Ava found herself warming to Miles. He was nothing like the men who had hurt her in the past. He was kind, considerate, and surprisingly humble for a man of his stature. She began to see the loneliness behind his stoic exterior, the man who had built walls around his heart just as she had. Against her better judgment, she started to let her guard down, enjoying their conversations and the comfort of his presence. For Miles, the change was even more profound. He had always kept his emotions tightly controlled, viewing relationships as potential pitfalls. But with Ava, he felt something different, something real. He began to question the life he had built, wondering if maybe, just maybe, there was more to happiness than wealth and power. Yet he struggled with how to express his feelings, fearing that revealing them might push Ava away. As the pregnancy neared its final stages, the bond between them became undeniable. What had started as a practical arrangement had blossomed into a deep connection, leaving both Ava and Miles wondering what the future might hold. As Ava entered the final months of her pregnancy, the bond between her and Miles became impossible to ignore. What had once been a straightforward, business-like relationship now carried the weight of unspoken feelings. Miles found himself spending more time with Ava, not just out of concern for the baby, but because he genuinely enjoyed her company. He began inviting her over to his mansion, not just for practical reasons, but to share meals, talk late into the night, and find comfort in each other's presence. For Ava, these invitations were both thrilling and terrifying. She had never imagined herself falling for a man again, much less the father of the child she was carrying under such unusual circumstances. Yet there was something about Miles that disarmed her. He was attentive, protective, and always seemed to know when she needed a moment of peace. Slowly, the wall she had built around her heart began to crumble. Miles was in turmoil. He had never intended to fall for Ava. This was supposed to be a simple surrogacy arrangement. But the more he got to know her, the more he admired her strength, resilience, and kindness. He found himself thinking about her constantly, wanting to be there for her, and dreading the day she might walk out of his life after the baby was born. He knew he had to confront his feelings, but the fear of rejection held him back. One evening, after a particularly long day, Ava found herself unable to sleep. The baby was restless, and so was she. She wandered the halls of Miles's mansion, eventually finding herself in the library, where she had spent many evenings reading by the fire. To her surprise, Miles was already there, lost in thought as he stared out the window. Their conversation that night took a different turn. Miles opened up about his life, his fears, and the immense pressure he felt to carry on the Kensington legacy. Ava listened, her heart aching for the man who had always seemed so in control, yet was now revealing his vulnerabilities. In return, she shared her own struggles, the betrayals that had led her to where she was now, and her fears about the future. As they talked, the connection between them deepened. Miles, unable to hold back any longer, confessed his growing feelings for Ava. He told her how much she had come to mean to him, how he admired her strength, and how he couldn't imagine his life without her. Ava, though surprised, felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had been grappling with her own feelings, and hearing Miles express his love made her realize that she felt the same. But their joy was tempered by uncertainty. Ava was still carrying his child as part of an agreement that had nothing to do with love. They both knew that their relationship would have to change if they were to build a life together, and the path ahead was far from clear. As Ava's due date approached, Miles became even more attentive. He wanted to ensure that she was comfortable, cared for, and most of all happy. He began to treat her like royalty, showering her with affection and making sure that every need was met. He renovated a wing of his mansion for Ava and the baby, complete with a nursery that was as beautiful as it was functional. Despite the overwhelming love and care, Ava couldn't shake the nagging doubts. She feared that once the baby was born, Miles might lose interest in her. After all, their relationship had started as a business arrangement, and while his feelings seemed genuine, she couldn't ignore the possibility that he might see her differently once she had fulfilled her role as a surrogate. Miles, sensing her unease, decided to take action. He arranged a private getaway for them, a secluded beach house where they could escape the pressures of their lives and focus on each other. The trip was a turning point for them both. Away from the demands of their day-to-day lives, they were able to truly connect, laying the groundwork for the life they both wanted to build together. During a moonlit walk on the beach, Miles made a heartfelt confession. He admitted that he had fallen in love with her long before he was willing to acknowledge it, and that the idea of her leaving after the baby was born terrified him. He told her that he didn't want her to be just the mother of his child. He wanted her to be his partner, his wife, and the love of his life. Ava, moved by his sincerity, finally let go of her fears. She realized that she had fallen deeply in love with Miles, and that despite her past, she could trust him with her heart. They shared a passionate kiss under the stars, sealing their commitment to each other. The day finally arrived when Ava went into labor. Miles was by her side every step of the way, holding her hand and reassuring her as she brought their child into the world. The birth was a joyous occasion, filled with tears of happiness as they welcomed a healthy baby boy into their lives. But as the excitement of the birth began to settle, a new reality set in. Miles couldn't bear the thought of Ava leaving, and as they looked at their son, he knew he had to act quickly. He had never been more certain of anything in his life. He wanted Ava and their son to be a permanent part of his world that in the days following the birth. Miles made his intentions clear. He proposed to Ava in the nursery, surrounded by the warmth and love they had created together. He presented her with a simple yet elegant ring, a symbol of his love and commitment to her and their new family. Ava, overwhelmed with emotion, accepted his proposal with tears in her eyes. She had never imagined that her journey to motherhood would also lead her to find true love. But there she was, holding the hand of the man who had not only given her a child, but had also restored her faith and love. The weeks and months that followed were filled with joy and love as Ava, Miles, and their son settled into their new life together. Miles's grandmother, Eleanor, was overjoyed to meet her great-grandson and welcomed Ava into the family with open arms. She could see how deeply Miles loved Ava, and she knew that her grandson had finally found the happiness he deserved. As time passed, Ava and Miles's family grew. They were blessed with 2 more children, each one bringing even more love and laughter into their lives. The mansion that had once felt so large and empty was now filled with the sounds of a happy family. Children's laughter, the patter of little feet, and the warmth of love in every corner. Ava had finally found her place in the world, and Miles had found the love and family he had always longed for. Their journey had been unexpected, filled with twists and turns, but it had led them to a life that neither of them could have ever imagined. They built a life together based on trust, mutual respect, and an unbreakable bond. Their love was a testament to the power of second chances, the importance of trust, and the belief that true happiness could be found even after the darkest of times. And so, Ava and Miles lived happily ever after, surrounded by the love of their children and the family they had created together. Their story became a beacon of hope, A reminder that love could be found in the most unexpected places, and that even after heartbreak, happiness was always possible. Hope you enjoyed this story. Don't forget to like it and subscribe to our channel. Your participation is essential so that we can continue to bring you more incredible stories. Share it with your friends to help our channel grow. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.